decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Let's get started. Our top focus on Gravitas tonight. Amidst the speculation over US President Donald Trump's health, Vice President JD Vance has said that he is ready to lead America if, quote-unquote, a terrible tragedy takes place. We are telling you more about what he said and getting you the bigger picture. And here's a look at what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. Getting you the latest from the battlefield on the Russia-Ukraine war that has taken a deadly turn, with the Russian missile and drone barrage hitting Kiev, and Ukraine striking a Russian cruise missile carrier, and Russia sinking Ukraine's largest naval ship. We also get you all about Prime Minister Modi's crucial Japan visit and the bigger picture, with a crucial meeting with the Chinese president coming up as well. All this and more coming. We are starting off tonight with a major controversy. This is coming in from Washington, D.C. and it's over America's top job. In an interview with USA Today, US Vice President JD Vance has said that he is fully prepared to assume the presidency in the event of what he called, quote-unquote, a terrible tragedy. He claimed that his last 200 days in office gave him on-the-job training to prepare for any such situation, while further stating that US President Donald Trump remains in good health and is full of energy. Now, JD Vance's remarks have created quite a stir, with several experts and reports calling his comments unnecessary, downright odd. Let's just take a pause here and ask the obvious questions that have been doing the rounds. Why did JD Vance need to say any of that in the first place? Why was it even necessary to raise the idea of succeeding Donald Trump at this moment? The vice president could have simply reassured the American public that Trump remains active and healthy and simply left it at that. Instead, he chose to delve into a hypothetical situation, opening the door to speculation and perhaps planting seeds of uncertainty. Just for context here, At 78 years and 7 months, Donald Trump is the oldest president to ever take office in the United States. And when he returned to the White House for a second time back in January. But let's just be clear here. As a general rule, no world leader's deputy, no opposition politician, no minister in another democracy takes it upon themselves to actually publicly talk about being ready to take charge, especially while the leader is alive and serving, of course. You did not hear Kamala Harris saying this about Joe Biden when he was in office, even when Biden's health had been a major topic of discussion. Even political opponents refrain from this sort of talk because it does send out the wrong signal in a way and leads to questions. Yet, JD Vance went there. He also praised Trump's tireless work ethics and insisted that the president remains energetic. But the contradiction is somewhat glaring. If Donald Trump is doing so well, why speculate about his replacement? Especially when Trump's health has been the subject of constant scrutiny. Just recently, cameras caught a noticeable bruise on his right hand, reportedly during a meeting with South Korean president. And last Friday, Donald Trump appeared with heavy makeup, reportedly, over the same spot, sparking questions online. The White House press secretary then has on multiple occasions attributed the bruise to irritation from frequent handshaking and aspirin use. But this is not an isolated incident. Similar images emerged earlier in the year during a meeting with the French president, Emmanuel Macron. Add to this the visible swelling in Trump's ankles, spotted several times last year, reportedly, and last month's disclosure from the White House that he suffers from chronic venous insufficiency. It is a condition where the blood struggles to flow properly from the legs back to the heart. All of which has led to intense speculation about Donald Trump's health. But when the Vice President of the United States himself steps in with such remarks about being ready to take over, it does not exactly reassure the public. It's important to note here that in April, the medical memo of Trump's annual physical examination by the White House physician stated that the US president is in excellent health and fully fit to carry out the duties of the presidency. But beyond Trump's physical health, there are persistent concerns also about his mental sharpness. Reports in outlets like The Guardian earlier this month, for example, pointed to repeated moments of incoherence, reportedly, rambling off-topic answers, reportedly. In fact, also the kind of behavior at display during campaign events, interviews, and even cabinet meetings, reportedly, all of which putting JD Vance's remarks under greater scrutiny, especially when it is coming from the man who stands first in line to replace Donald Trump. Vance's words carry weight, of course, and in politics, words are not fillers, they can be signals. And JD Vance's choice of words may have signaled far more than he intended. Shifting focus for now, the Russia-Ukraine war has taken a deadly turn. A deadly Russian missile and drone barrage tearing through Kiev, shattering homes, killing 21 people. Ukraine striking back with hitting a Russian cruise missile carrier near occupied Crimea. But Russia answering with a sea drone strike, sinking Ukraine's largest naval ship. Take a look.
Kiev's skyline ripped apart. Explosions thundered across the capital as missiles and drones rained down. Leaving fireballs over residential blocks and emergency crews racing through the smoke. The city shook. its people jolted awake once again by war's brutal reminder. But even as Kyiv counted the cost, the battle shifted to the seas. Ukrainian forces launched a daring strike on a Russian cruise missile carrier near occupied Crimea. Naval drones and precision strikes tore into the vessel. Ukrainian officials claiming it was heavily damaged in port. The attack was meant to send a message: Ukraine is not giving up control of the Black Sea. Hours later came Russia's reply, and it was devastating. For the first time, Moscow deployed a sea drone strike of its own. On target was Ukraine's largest operational naval ship. The unmanned craft slipped under radar, packed with explosives, slamming into the vessel's hull. Within minutes, Ukraine's pride of the fleet was sinking beneath the waves. A new and dangerous phase begins in the Russia-Ukraine war. NATO is monitoring closely. And with Kyiv under constant fire and its navy battered, Ukraine's fight for survival is entering its most dangerous waters yet. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
All right, some breaking news coming in right this minute. The United States saying it is denying visas to Palestinian officials ahead of next month's UN General Assembly. In fact, the US State Department announcing that the Secretary of State is denying and revoking visas from Palestinian officials ahead of next month's United Nations General Assembly. Now, this move comes 1 month after the State Department, remember, first announced that it would pursue this policy, which it now appears to be implementing, but again does not name which individuals will be barred. Let's just get in further details now from our correspondent Susan Tehrani, who's with us, who's been tracking those developments very closely. Not a complete surprise, but at the same time, a lot of questions and uncertainty in a way about what lies ahead. Susan, get our viewers the complete context and what you're picking up at this point.
Right, absolutely. A lot of questions indeed, Molly, but I do have the State Department's press release. Just in part, I want to read to you that this is their justification, saying before the PLO and PA can be considered partners for peace, they must consistently repudiate terrorism, including the October 7th massacre, and end incitement of terrorism in education as required by U.S. law. It also says that basically both steps materially contribute to Hamas's refusal to release its hostages and to the breakdown of the Gaza talks, those two being, first of all, not bypassing negotiations through international lawfare like the ICC, and also the PA's attempt to bypass negotiations. Now, this is important. It says the PA mission to the UN will receive waivers during the UNGA. Per the UN headquarters agreement, the United States remains open to re-engagement that is consistent with our laws. Now, why is this important? It's because the UNGA is in September, early October, and we know that really Western countries, a lot of them had the intention to declare Palestine as an independent state. So that might, throw things into shambles on the one hand, and on the other hand, it sort of may go against the agreement that the United States has with the United Nations, where people that are coming to the United Nations in New York, they generally, notably diplomats, do get visas.
All right, we're leaving it there for the moment, Susan. Thanks very much for those details as of now. And on to Gaza, where Israel has started a major operation to take over Gaza City. The Israeli Prime Minister's office has said that Israeli forces recovered the body of an Israeli hostage, Ilan Weiss, during its operation. Another unnamed hostage's body was recovered and returned to Israel, but 55-year-old Weiss was a resident of Kibbutz Bay in southern Israel and was kidnapped from his home. On October 7, 2023, his wife, Shiri, and daughter, Noga, were also abducted and later released as part of a hostage prisoner swap deal in November 2023. And with Weiss's body recovered, Israel says 49 hostages remain in Gaza, of whom only 20 are believed to be alive. Today, the 29th of August 2025, the Israeli military also declared Gaza City a dangerous combat zone and said that it was in the initial stages of the planned offensive to take over Gaza City. The move has drawn international condemnation. The resumption of round-the-clock fighting is the latest escalation. And Israel also reported strikes in some of Gaza City's key neighborhoods and called up tens of thousands of reservists. Just earlier in the day, over 40 Palestinians were killed when Israel struck Gaza, including a so-called humanitarian zone designated as such by Israel itself. Visuals from on the ground on Friday showed the grim reality of the besieged Palestinian enclave, of families mourning, of bodies being taken for funeral, of people crying in and outside the hospitals.
وآمر حبيب الله.
Israel says that it avoids hitting civilians and is seeking to eliminate Hamas, but it is the ordinary Palestinians whose bodies are lining up in the hospital. The United Nations Secretary General, meanwhile, is among those criticizing Israel for its expanded military operation to seize Gaza City. The UN chief said it signaled a new and dangerous phase in the war. All international appeals to stop the strikes and condemnations have fallen on deaf ears in Israel, as the Israeli army has now decided that a so-called temporary daily tactical pause will no longer apply to Gaza City. Starting from this morning, the tactical pause move was announced last month for humanitarian purposes.
نعمل في هذه الأثناء بقوة شديدة في مشارف مدينة غزة، في الزيتون وفي جباليا وغيرها من المناطق. قوات كبيرة أخرى.
And Israel is no longer interested in following that in Gaza City. Israel did not call for the remaining people there to evacuate immediately, but its army's Arabic language spokesman, Avice Adrai, early this week said that the city's evacuation was inevitable. According to the United Nations estimates, meanwhile, nearly 1 million people currently live in Gaza Governorate, which includes Gaza City and its surroundings in the north of the territory. Footage also showed lines of Palestinians fleeing south in vans and cars, piled high with mattresses, chairs, bags. Hamas has reportedly agreed to the latest terms of the ceasefire, but that has no buyers in Israel, reportedly. Last week, Israel's defense minister vowed to destroy Gaza City if Hamas did not agree to end the war on Israel's terms. Remember, the Israeli government has also approved a plan to seize the city and authorize the call-up of roughly 60,000 reservists. In its statement on Friday, the Israeli military said it will continue to support humanitarian efforts alongside the ongoing maneuvering and offensive operations against Hamas. Since the war began 2 years ago, Israel's offensive in Gaza has killed nearly 63,000 Palestinians, around half of whom were women and children. And here's a look at what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. As US warships close in on Venezuela, the standoff between the two sides escalating, tensions rising. We tell you all that you need to know. Getting you the latest from India, where different parts are battling with heavy rainfall and rising river levels in some areas. Shifting focus now to the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's crucial visit to Japan, marking a whole new dimension in bilateral ties. India and Japan have signed a crucial MOU, paving the way for stronger strategic, economic and technological cooperation, apart from other agreements.
以上をもちまして、日印両首脳によります共同記者発表を終了いたします。ご出席賜りました皆様。
In fact, in the joint press meet, Prime Minister Modi called the discussions with the Japanese Prime Minister both productive as well as purposeful. He also called the partnership for both the countries as essential for global peace and security, which lays the foundation for a golden chapter in the partnership. And listing out the priorities for the coming decade, Prime Minister Modi charted a future roadmap based on common areas of focus entailing investment, innovation, economic security, environment, technology, health, mobility, people-to-people exchanges, among others. And this comes as an upgrade to the 2025 vision statement by Prime Minister Modi and the then Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. Expanding on what these investments would comprise, Prime Minister Modi said a goal of 10 trillion yen, approximately $68 billion investment from Japan in India has been set, with special emphasis on connecting small and medium enterprises and startups of both the countries. Earlier at the 15th India-Japan Economic Forum in Tokyo, Prime Minister Modi made an all-encompassing pitch to Japanese officials and businessmen that packed in a bunch of elements, from metro to manufacturing, semiconductors to startups. His business pitch for India projected it as a global investment hub, fertile for capital to not just grow but multiply.
Special emphasis on fostering connections between small and medium enterprises and startups of India and Japan. During the India-Japan Business Forum as well, I invited Japanese companies to make in India and make for the world.
Prime Minister Modi also sought to bolster regional security ties, confirming that both nations are fully committed to a free, open, peaceful, prosperous and rules-based Indo-Pacific. And that's not the only front that he mentioned. Prime Minister Modi also urged further vigilance and protective measures in areas of terrorism, cyber security, which he said are common concerns for both the countries. Prime Minister Modi's Japan visit also has historical significance, as the meeting marked 20 years since the first annual summit in 2005, when the then Japanese Prime Minister met Prime Minister Monsoon Singh in Delhi. And most notably, Prime Minister Modi's Japan visit will be followed by a trip to China, where Prime Minister Modi is scheduled to attend the annual summit of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, SCO, with the Chinese President Xi Jinping. A meeting with the Chinese President Xi Jinping lined up as New Delhi seeks to diversify trade and bolster ties with Beijing, especially after the tariff blow by US President Donald Trump. Remember, Trump slapped India with a staggering 50% tariff for purchasing Russian oil. At the SEO summit, Prime Minister Modi is also set to meet the Russian president. A couple of hours ago, in fact, the Kremlin announced that Putin would be visiting India in December. And when US President Donald Trump returned to the White House this year, he promised Americans that the economy would roar back to life, income would skyrocket, inflation would vanish, jobs would return in full force. 8 months into his second stint as the President of the United States, Donald Trump has waged a trade war with the world in a way and told Americans that they will benefit from it. But what do the Americans feel? It seems they don't appear convinced. In fact, Trump's tariff wars are now hitting closer to home, and it is the American workers who themselves are feeling the squeeze. US workers saying tariffs are cancelling out their hard work. According to a new survey from Wallet Hub, 55% of Americans believe their hard work is not paying off because tariffs and inflation are eating away at their earnings. Remember, Trump has slapped tariffs on dozens of countries, including India. But while foreign exporters are hurting, so are American consumers, and prices remain stubbornly high. Here's what else this survey found. 7 in 10 saying that they find themselves working harder this year than in 2024. 60% saying that the job market continues to remain tough. Now, the fear is not just about higher prices, it's also about the future of jobs. According to the same survey, 40% of Americans worry that AI could replace their jobs. And in a separate Reuters Ipsos poll early this month itself, 71% said they fear artificial intelligence will lead to permanent job losses. Meanwhile, the job market itself showing little sign of recovery. Nearly 60% of the respondents said that finding employment remains difficult, but that's not surprising. It's a trend, after all, that we are witnessing just about everywhere around the world. But as far as the US economy is concerned, its president seems to be doubling down. In a post on Truth Social, Donald Trump warned that he would impose new tariffs on countries that, in his words, attack American tech companies, saying that digital taxes are meant to harm the tech interests of America. Trump says foreign digital taxes are meant to hurt US tech firms. But then his response, which is threatening more tariffs on the countries imposing them, only raises the costs and the concern at home. Instead of shielding American workers, these moves seem to be driving up prices and deepening the very economic anxieties that he promised Americans he will be taking care of. And that's not the only poll, by the way, that shows that Trump's approval has fallen in a way. Polling from YouGov also showing that Trump's rating has fallen to -14, which is his lowest since he returned to the Oval Office in January. His promises of skyrocketing incomes and clamping down on inflation yet to materialize in a way, even in parts that voted for him and voted him back just months ago. Frustration is evident, it seems. Younger voters and members of ethnic minorities are among the most strongly disapproving of Trump's policies so far. People who have the most education, college graduates, postgraduates, are least likely to support Trump. Voters of pension age, normally a solid Republican bloc, also surprisingly lukewarm on the president. As is evident, Republicans face a restless electorate heading into next year's midterms. So the picture seems to be clear. Tariffs meant to punish America's rivals have been used to the point that they are not only hurting America's allies, but also punishing American wallets. Inflation remains high on the ground, job fears are escalating, and if these polls are any indication, public patience with Trump's economic promises is wearing thin. Shifting focus, tensions boiling in the Caribbean as U.S. warships close in on Venezuela. President Maduro vowing no way America can invade as he leads military drills under the spotlight, and with nuclear submarines now in play, the standoff is sharper than ever.
The waters of Venezuela churn with warships, the skies thunder with jets, and President Nicolas Maduro is on the front lines wearing fatigues. During live drills declaring the country ready for any strike.
Neither sanctions, nor blockades, nor psychological warfare, nor siege. They have not been able, they have not succeeded, nor ever will. There is no way for them to enter Venezuela.
Across the horizon, American power looms. U.S. naval forces ordered by Donald Trump now patrol just off Venezuela's coastline. And in a chilling signal, Washington has deployed the nuclear-powered submarine USS Newport News into Caribbean waters, a vessel armed with Tomahawk cruise missiles, capable of striking deep into the heart of Venezuela. Venezuela has been put on a war footing. Convoys of tanks and armored vehicles are rumbling through the country's coastal states. Soldiers stand ready with shoulder-fired rockets. Radar stations sweep the skies. Venezuela has started a nationwide conscription registration for militia.
I'm here, well, because the homeland is calling us. Our country needs us. We're stepping up as fighters to counter everything that's happening, both internationally and nationally, because it also puts us at risk. And so, we're in this struggle.
According to the guidelines we are given, we are available for whatever is needed, whatever we are called upon to do, whatever we can contribute. That would be the idea.
The saber rattling has sent ripples across the region. In a sign of shifting alliances, Maduro has publicly praised Colombia's President Petro for reinforcing his side of their shared border. A move seen as a subtle bulwark against any potential ground incursion. For now, it's a tense standoff. The Trump administration says the deployment near Venezuela's territorial waters is an anti-drug trafficking operation. The U.S. has made no public threat to invade. Bureau Report, WION The World is One.
Shifting focus now to Europe, where an arms race is underway with Russia, a competition to build the most advanced, most lethal ballistic missile. For the first time since the Cold War, Britain is preparing to field a battlefield ballistic missile. It has unveiled a new project, codenamed Nightfall, which would mark the UK's entry into Europe's missile build-up, driven by Russian aggression and Moscow's expanding arsenal. The UK Ministry of Defence published a request for information for the missile, providing details of what is required. Here's what is known about the program as of now. According to the Ministry of Defence, the missile must travel more than 600 kilometers, far beyond America's ATACMS, which basically maxes out at 300 kilometers. It must strike within 5 meters of accuracy, even in a GPS-denied battlefield, which is a hard lesson learned from Russia's heavy use of electronic warfare in the Ukraine war. And the key requirements for the new Nightfall missile have also been laid out in the Defense Ministry document. They say that it must be resistant to GPS jamming, capable of a launch and leave strike within just 15 minutes, with a production target of 10 missiles every month, and a cost cap of £500,000 per missile. From the looks of it, at this stage, the Nightfall program is in the open early engagement phase, with the ministry judging interest from potential suppliers before it actually goes ahead and procures it. But it is important to note here that the UK armed forces are even looking for a new ballistic missile at this stage, having last fielded the US-made Lance, which was a mobile field artillery tactical missile during the Cold War, with a range of less than 100 miles. It was primarily a nuclear delivery system for the Central Front battlefield. Now, the UK wants a sovereign missile program, basically free from US export restrictions and cheap enough to mass produce. For now, Nightfall program is only in its early engagement phase, but the move shows a new strategy. Europe is rearming itself for a missile race with Russia, and the UK is not about to be left behind. With delivery trials targeted within just a year, the UK could have a new ballistic missile soon, and that could change Europe's missile capabilities and bring back a Cold War era weapon for a 21st century battlefield. A new report reveals Vietnam is rapidly expanding its presence in the South China Sea, building artificial islands at a pace that could soon surpass China's in the disputed Spratly Islands. The report by Washington-based Asia Maritime Transparency Initiative, part of the Center for Strategic and International Studies, using satellite images, states that since January, Vietnam has intensified dredging and construction at 8 of the features it controls. Those projects add to work already underway across the Spratlys, a cluster of more than 100 small islands and reefs that remain one of Asia's most hotly contested territories. Vietnam, China, Taiwan claim the chain in its entirety, while the Philippines, Malaysia, Brunei assert partial claims. Across South China Sea, China has been creating man-made islands, airstrips, military facilities. In fact, Beijing insists almost the entire South China Sea, an area of 1.2 million square miles that carries trillions of dollars in trade each year, falls under its sovereignty. And that claim rests on the so-called 9-dash line, which the International Court of Justice previously dismissed as having no legal standing. The report further states that by March this year, Vietnam had reclaimed about 70% as much land as China in the Spratlys. The report also highlighting that Vietnam holds more features in the Spratlys than China, 21 compared to 7. 21 compared to 7. And as per the report, on 7 islands where land reclamation has largely ended, Vietnam is now building military-related facilities, including storage depots for munitions. China has responded to the report, stating that the islands are part of its inherent territory. Listen in.
The Nansha Islands are China's inherent territory. China firmly opposes construction activities by relevant countries on illegally occupied islands and reefs and will take necessary measures to safeguard its territorial sovereignty and maritime rights and interests.
The standoff between China and Vietnam over the South China Sea is not new, of course. Tensions have flared for decades. In 1974, Chinese and South Vietnamese forces clashed over the Paracel Islands, leaving a warship sunk and dozens dead. And that history underscores the stakes today as they race to reinforce their positions across one of the world's most strategic waterways. The South China Sea remains a major flashpoint with global implications. Kiev reeling from one of Russia's deadliest missile barrages in months, leaving 23 dead, diplomatic missions in ruins as the dust barely settles. The war's fury spreading east. Dnipro burning under relentless drone and missile attacks. On the other hand, Washington is stepping up the pressure, announcing a staggering $825 million arms sale to Ukraine, stocked with long-range missiles that promise to shift the war's balance, but will not arrive anytime soon. Take a look.
pattern repeats. First, the air raid sirens. Then, the thunderous impacts. After the carnage in Kiev, Russian missiles and drones have now slammed into the central city of Dnipro. Ukraine's eastern city of Sloviansk was also targeted by Russian missiles and drones.
No matter how much you get used to it, it's still scary, to be honest. It was very close. There were explosions here too. Well, it's nearby. Everything is happening nearby.
The US unveiled a monumental $825 million arms package for Ukraine. The shipment is packed with hundreds of long-range Aram missiles, capable of striking targets up to 250 kilometers away, further increasing Kiev's offensive reach. The missile is a next-generation air-launched precision-guided weapon rapidly developed to meet Ukraine's battlefield needs. The Aram combines the explosive force of a heavy bomb with the long-range capabilities of a cruise missile. Yet, these missiles are not immediate reinforcements. Delivery will take months, perhaps forcing Ukraine to endure a brutal wait while holding critical ground. US President Donald Trump, meanwhile, ramps up arms sales, profiting off the war. The war's furnace burns hotter than ever. Cities smolder, civilians suffer, and missile shipments hint at a fiercer, longer conflict on the horizon. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Our next story is about a grim reality facing us today, the menace of plastics. We are surrounded by them. It's a global crisis. In fact, microplastics have been found in human bodies, and now, according to a study, those living in India's capital are breathing plastic. In fact, there is something even more scary at play here. According to the study, adults in the national capital inhale almost twice as many microplastic particles in the summer as they do in the winter. You know what it says about the estimated average daily exposure? The rise, according to it, is a 97% jump from the colder months to the hotter season. In fact, the study, titled Characterization and Health Risk Assessment of Airborne Microplastics in Delhi NCR, is a joint effort by researchers from the Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology under the Ministry of Earth Sciences and the Department of Environmental Sciences at Savitribai Phule, Pune University. According to it, children and toddlers also face significant exposure. All of this is extremely concerning. Let's just break this down for you further. What is causing this? According to the study, local sources like textile manufacturing, garment processing, packaging waste, and household laundry cited as key contributors, while northwesterly winds were found to transport additional microplastics from industrial clusters, markets, and waste burning sites into Delhi's air. Just for more context here, the study also notes that the World Health Organization has noted that half of the world's 20 most polluted cities are in South Asia, remember, underlining the region's vulnerability and how Delhi faces extreme weather, from 45 degrees Celsius summers to 5 degrees Celsius winters, alongside high pollution loads. According to the study, in fact, these conditions make the city a hot spot for airborne microplastic exposure. Although no safe threshold has been established for inhaling microplastics, the study warned that chronic exposure may contribute to asthma, bronchitis, pneumonia, lung inflammation, and even cancer. And it said that smaller particles may lodge deep in the lungs, carry bacteria, and cause oxidative stress, potentially affecting not only lung function, but also skin and brain cells. It added that inhalation is not the only route of exposure, it said. Microplastics can also contaminate food and drinking water, according to it, or be ingested during routine activities in polluted environments. According to the researchers, vulnerability varies by age, occupation, health status, and rate of the air intake. Last year, it was reported that a report from the Energy Policy Institute at the University of Chicago indicated that cleaner air could increase the life expectancy of Delhi residents by up to 7.8 years. And that meeting the WHO air quality guidelines could yield these benefits. That's the kind of impact that the air we breathe has on our lives. The fact is, our world today is facing a growing plastic menace. The world has been dealing with the impact of plastic pollution in different ways. It is a grave threat that has surrounded us from all sides. Microplastics and nanoplastics, that are tiny bits of plastics, have been found in several parts of our body, including our brain and cardiovascular system. It's a race against time to fight this menace, save our planet and our lives. A mysterious visitor is on its way to planet Earth, moving closer, 137,000 miles per hour. Is it an alien ship or a comet? Scientists and researchers are left puzzled to unpack the mystery. We spoke to a physicist who is trying to unravel the truths about this cosmic object. The professor of science at Harvard University revealing the mystery behind this unknown visitor. Listen in.
In the case of 3I Atlas, as soon as it was discovered, I estimated its expected size based on the reflectance of sunlight, and it looked as if it's 20 kilometers, which is huge. It's as big as Manhattan Island and twice as big as the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs 66 million years ago. And such a big object is untenable if it's a rock, because the previous object that we found from interstellar space that was moving too fast to be bound by gravity to the sun was discovered by Gennady Borisov in 2019, and it had 1 million times less mass than a rock that is 20 kilometers in diameter. The only place where you find nickel without iron is in alloys that are produced for industrial purposes here on Earth, which raises the possibility that maybe this object is a technological spacecraft. And the other reason to assume that is, well, if there is not enough rocky material in interstellar space, perhaps such a big object was targeting the inner solar system, and therefore had nothing to do with the reservoir of rocky material in interstellar space. It would have taken about 80 years for this object to arrive to the vicinity of Earth from a distance of about 1,000 Earth-Sun separations. That's the edge of the inner Oort cloud. And about 80 years ago, we had the first nuclear explosion on Earth. And so one may wonder whether we triggered this visit. 3I Atlas will come closest to the Sun on October 29th, 2025. And the fundamental question is whether it will use it to maneuver. If it doesn't appear on the other side of the Sun, actually the Earth would be on the opposite side of the Sun. The Sun would block our view of 3I Atlas when it comes closest. If it does a maneuver, the stock market may crash. It's a blind date of interstellar proportions. And in a blind date, my advice is observe the other side before doing anything. I don't think we should message immediately to 3I Atlas. And we should examine the implications. And now, of course, after such an encounter, we might decide to have an array of spacecraft that would intercept future visitors. If it turns out that we encounter an alien technological probe, that would be as revolutionary or even more revolutionary as the discovery of quantum mechanics, because it will have implications to humanity, to our aspirations in space. It would mean that there is a smarter kid on our cosmic block, and it will fill us with a sense of cosmic modesty that we very much deserve.
On to India now. From Himachal Pradesh to Telangana, the country is battling heavy rainfall in different parts and a growing threat of floods and landslides in different areas. In Himachal Pradesh, in Manali, cloudbursts and landslides brought life to a standstill, leaving roads blocked, commuters stranded, as different paths struggled with nature's fury. In Uttarakhand's Garhwal region, meanwhile, the Alaknanda River nearing the danger mark in Srinagar, also days of incessant rainfall. Cloudburst incidents have been reported in Rudraprayag, Chamoli, Tehri Garhwal districts last night. The cloudburst incidents in the Garhwal region of the state have triggered flash floods, collapsing houses, bridges, leaving families trapped, livestock buried in some parts. At least 2 people are reported to be missing in the Chamoli district. The Badrinath highway between Srinagar and Rudraprayag has been completely submerged, leading to a total blockage of the route. In Jammu, a part of the bridge over the Tavi River has been washed away. In response, the Indian Army has stepped in, constructed a Bailey bridge to restore vital connectivity there. Jammu and Kashmir reeling under one of the deadliest Augusts in recent memory. Over 100 lives have been lost in cloudbursts, landslides, flash floods, with nearly 50 people still missing across the Jammu division. Jammu and Kashmir witnessed several incidents of cloudbursts in August. Kathua witnessed a deadly cloudburst on the 17th of August that killed at least 7 people and 5 injured. Several houses were buried under sludge in the Ghati area. A police station and railway track also submerged. Cloudbursts also occurred in Kishtwar on August 14. That resulted in the death of at least 60 people. Pilgrims have also been affected. In the western state of Gujarat, meanwhile, drone visuals from Navsari showing the Kaveri and Kharera rivers swelling, raising alarm in the low-lying areas. Down south, meanwhile, in Telangana, Medak, the sacred Edupayala Vana Durga temple, is partially underwater, with locals grappling with flood-like conditions. 6 districts in north and northeast Telangana on high alert, with forecast warning of heavy rainfall, thunderstorms, gusty winds. IMD has also predicted a heavy spell of showers in east and central India. These include parts like Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, West Bengal, Sikkim, Bihar, Jharkhand, Odisha. As the weather systems intensify, authorities urging residents in the vulnerable areas to remain cautious and follow official advisories closely. If your dog struggles with extra weight, there is a new way to help. Hydrotherapy, experts say. This water-based exercise not only supports weight loss but also improves overall fitness and recovery. In fact, American-based Association for Pet Obesity Prevention pointing out that swimming, just like walking or playing, can be a safe and effective way for dogs to burn calories. That it also eases the pressure on the joints while still giving the body a full workout. further stating that it is especially useful for overweight dogs, those recovering from injuries, or pets that tire quickly in the heat. Hydrotherapy typically comes in two forms: swimming in a controlled pool or walking on an underwater treadmill. Animal hydrotherapists describe both options as excellent cardio routines that help burn fat while keeping the stress low on the body. And because water naturally resists movement, dogs work harder in every step or stroke, helping them strengthen muscles as they shed pounds. The process starts gently. For dogs new to water, hydrotherapists use life jackets and allow only a few seconds of paw dipping to ease the fear. Gradually, they extend the sessions until the animal becomes confident and comfortable moving about in water. According to Hong Kong Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, underwater treadmills add another layer of benefit. The treadmill creates steady, low-impact motion while buoyancy reduces the strain on joints, and that combination helps manage weight, rebuild strength, aid recovery after injury. However, specialists caution that hydrotherapy is not suited for all dogs, noting that advice is crucial before starting out, and exercise alone is not enough. A balanced diet must always support weight loss for pets to stay healthy. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas tonight. This is me, Molly Gambhir, signing off. Thanks very much for watching. Have a good weekend.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
On Inside South Asia this week, all eyes on the Modi-Xi meeting on the sidelines of the SCO summit in Tianjin, China. Can the Asian giants tango ahead? Donald Trump's whopping 50% export tariff for select Indian industries kicks in. And it's 8 years since the Rohingya exodus from Myanmar into the squalid refugee camps in Cox's Bazar in Bangladesh. No hope in sight of an end to their nightmare. This and more on Inside South Asia.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world.